So as a working DP, there are a ton of tools available that help me do my job, but these are 10 things that I just can't live without, and some of them might not be what you think. Now, I'm not gonna say this is an essential list for every filmmaker out there, but these are just some of my personal must-haves that I tend to always bring with me on set, and some of them don't even relate to filmmaking at all. So before I get into it, I noticed over half of my viewers this month aren't subscribed to the channel, so if you appreciate this type of content, consider subscribing. It means a lot. All right, so I'm gonna get the most obvious out of the way first. They're my light and color meters. I tend to use my color meter a lot more than my light meter nowadays, but I always find my quality of work is always so much more consistent whenever I'm waving my light meter around set. Now, this isn't a plug for you to rush out and go buy a light meter and color meter. They're pretty expensive, but it is very helpful being able to quantify entire areas of light rather than just flicking on false color and using a stand-in who often doesn't have the same skin complexion as your talent. My color meter has been invaluable in evaluating all kinds of colorimetry metrics like CCT or TM30. If I'm lighting an on-location interview and need to know what the overhead lights are doing so that I can match them myself, or sometimes I'll match lighting units from different manufacturers so that I have consistent color across the set. It'll even spit out the necessary gels I need if I'm trying to get a specific color temperature to match another unit. It's great being able to know how a specific piece of diffusion affects your color temperature or how different sources are in terms of their spectral distribution. It really is just a little confidence meter, and I use it all the time. The only downside is that the color meters are outrageously expensive, especially the new ones. This is the C800, which has more metrics for RGB. So your mileage may vary on whether or not all of these metrics are worth it for you. So these are pretty handy to have on set, particularly during scouts. They're a lot more direct when I'm standing against the camera and I'm trying to point out a specific area that I'm trying to light, or maybe a rigging point off the ceiling, or even finding marks for talent or camera positions. I can't tell you how much time these things have saved me on set when I'm trying to point out a specific area to a crew member. And there's really not much to it. They're just super handy to have around. Also, they're great for giving my dog some exercise. All right, so we all no doubt already have external hard drives, but I always keep a few extra on me so that I can actually upsell them to the client.
I got that thing on me. I got that stick. I got that tool. I'm packing.
I can't tell you how many times I've been in a situation and a producer either forgets to bring a drive or doesn't have the proper cable to media manage, so then I'll pull out a spare drive, and then all of a sudden I become hero of the day so that we're not stuck at a stalemate trying to figure out what to do with the footage at the end of the day. Most companies know better by now to use SSDs over the older spinning disks, especially when transferring large amounts of data, but the warnings of the overtime boogeyman is sometimes enough to convince clients to just use one of my spare drives and I'll add it to the invoice, or just they'll end up mailing it back. Also, as a side note, I've seen a bunch of articles lately on how people have been losing their data with the SanDisk Extreme Pro SSDs, so I don't know if I'd recommend any of those, and I actually own a bunch of those. Instead, I might go for something like a newer T7 or even a rugged SSD. So over the past couple years, I've become much more active in taking care of my body, and this little gadget basically goes with me everywhere I go. I tend to spend a lot of time at the gym, and this tool is great at speeding up recovery by working through a lot of that muscle soreness. But I find it most helpful for those longer days on set where I'm on my feet all day, and I can just take this little guy and reduce a lot of that muscle fatigue and just increase blood flow. When I used to do a lot of music festivals, this was undoubtedly my most important piece of kit. After miles and miles of walking with a huge camera rig, I'd head back to home base for 10 to 15 minutes, and it felt like a reset switch for my legs by just flushing them out with all that circulation. I could kind of pinpoint specific areas on my legs and upper thigh and just slowly chip away at all the knots. The triangle grip is surprisingly ergonomic so that you can kind of really get into wherever you're feeling tight. And it's super portable, and you can just easily just toss it in your go bag. Most importantly, you can charge it via USB-C so that it's one less proprietary charger that I have to bring with me whenever I travel. So I'm really excited about this next piece of kit, who's actually the sponsor of today's video, and that's CRDBAGS. It's a really simple concept to help you stay organized, and at the end of the day, it's just a pouch, but it's a product that I think is executed so well that I have no problem recommending them. So for transparency's sake, these pouches were on my list well before CRDBAG approached me about sponsoring this video, and I've purchased all my own bags back when they were only available for pre-order. That being said, it's no secret that I just adore these little bags. I've been using them for over a year, and I literally bring at least one to every job I go on because they're great for just about anything and help you stay really organized. I generally have one for media or extra cables or even audio gear when I'm on those kinds of jobs. Oftentimes I'll use a small or medium strictly for media, so I'll throw in XQD or CF Express cards in with separate readers so that everything is self-contained in one little pouch, and then I can just hand this off to whoever is media managing. And if it's me, then I'll come home at the end of the day or at the end of the shoot, everything is self-contained, and then I can just start offloading. Another great hidden little feature is that they have a little AirTag pocket built right inside the pouch so that you can keep track of all your gear. I'll usually drop one in with my CF Express cards because they're really expensive and also really easy to lose. My favorite thing about them is just how functional they are. You can hang them anywhere using the tactical hook or add your own custom label with the transparent window. It has PALS webbing on the back so you can attach it just like any other MOLLE accessory. And if you have an innovative cart, a little hack you can do is get these little threaded 1/4-inch rings, and I'll literally hang a bunch right off the cart so I have quick access to everything I need without having to take up extra space on the cart. They're perfect for AKS cases, and I even keep a string of them lined on my shelves at home to store random items that don't necessarily need a case. These are the 4 sizes that they currently offer. This is the small, medium, large, and extra large. I really like carrying my RS3 Pro in this extra large here rather than kind of using that stock DJI case. And again, I'll hang this right off the cart so it's not taking up extra real estate on the shelves. My favorites are probably the small and medium. I really like the medium for media. So as you can see here, I have different kind of assortments of media. I have some Codex cards, my CF Express Type A cards, as well as card readers, cables, and everything I need. So I just really love the build quality. They use really good quality materials for each of these bags. And you can get each size individually or buy a kit of all 4 for $150, which honestly isn't bad. And if you use my code ISTHATARED on checkout, you can get 15% off your entire order. So big thanks again to CRDBAGS for sponsoring this video. So I'm a big coffee nut, and we all know that on-location coffee tends to taste like burnt water. So I love bringing a good pour over from home, and these cute little fellow mugs are my favorite way of doing that. This little one is an 8-ouncer and is the perfect serving size for my Chemex. And my favorite part about it is the double-walled insulation. So it really does keep my coffee hot until I'm actually ready to enjoy it, which oftentimes isn't until we're all set up and already rolling. It's also got this great little splash guard that prevents your coffee from getting everywhere. And 9 times out of 10, you can count on finding one of these in my trusty RoboCup. So this little monster is great to have around for just about everything. I originally thought of this as a replacement to Bright Tangerine's Titan Arm, but you can use this to attach pretty much anything you want using the different ball tips that are available. It can hold up to 30 pounds depending on the configuration, so you can literally use it to mount just about anything from cameras to smaller fixtures. The center rosette has an incredible amount of torque so that you can really lock down the arm with a lot of precision. My only quirk is that I wish they made the 1/4-20 and 3/8 attachments with little rubber pads so that you're not having to thread metal on metal, but you can always use something like a small O-ring to help protect those surfaces. So these are a little bit of another freebie. It seems like everyone's been switching to the HOLLYLAND SolidComm headsets, and I'm part of that crowd. I'm adding this to the list because their new C1 versions, the Pro versions, are a huge upgrade of the original ones because of the addition of noise cancellation, which is one of their biggest feedback points, and was actually something that I noticed in my initial review of these. These are so much more lightweight when you compare them to the EarTechs, and you actually have the option of turning the noise cancellation on or off, as well as being able to link 8 of these without using a hub. The hub is also great because you can kind of link them together whenever you need more than 8 headsets, and is actually what we did on the recent cooking show that I just featured in my last video. In my opinion, these are indispensable for camera teams, for real-time communication, and they've such great sound clarity that you can whisper right into the mic mid-take, which is what I did a lot during the cooking show and is super helpful to give notes to my operators. So I did a review of this big guy a little while ago, and it's seriously been so helpful to have around. I primarily use it as a cheaper alternative to a battery block, and I was actually on a recent job where, for whatever reason, the entire building seemed like it was wired off of a single circuit, and it was already in use for all of our lighting, which meant that charging batteries was kind of out of the question, but ended up being not an issue at all since we were able to power a camera off of a single Delta Mini for basically the whole day. I think we maybe had one battery swap, but it just goes to show just how long these little things will last. It's still technically a consumer product, so fan noise can be a little bit of an issue if it gets hot, and since I am still using the AC adapter to power the camera, I still have to use the big annoying power supply box instead of using something like a 4-pin XLR like I would with a traditional block battery. These gripes are easily forgiven though, since it's only about a quarter of the price of a block battery and also charges from 0 to 100 in about an hour. I've even shown up to a day of shooting without having charged it the night before, and by the time camera was up, it was already fully charged. There's also a USB-C, 100-watt USB-C port right here on the front, so I can actually power my laptop and even power external drives right off the back. So that's super helpful when I'm dumping footage at the end of the day. So again, these things have a ton of utility on set. So these recent additions have been super fascinating for me. They're basically outrageously expensive reflectors with different diffusion levels. I've been interested in these specifically for tabletop work when I'm working with food, but people use these all the time to reflect one light source into multiple areas with really excellent transmission. I love being able to lift and accent the frame while only utilizing one single point source, and they're especially easy to fit into tight spaces since you're not having to deal with an entire 4x mirror board. I have the smaller 7cm and 15cm kit, but my favorite size is probably the 50. It's just crazy expensive. I will say that rigging them always seems like an uneconomical use of C-stands, and there is absolutely no reason that these C-wheels need to be $175. That's just insane. I'd love to hear about some of your on-set must-haves, so comment down below and I'll pick a random winner to win a few Is That a Red stickers. A huge thanks to CRDBAGS for sponsoring this video, and if you're interested in seeing what other camera-related accessories I bring with me on every set, you can check out my AKS video here, and if you want more in-depth behind the scenes from my real-world jobs as a DP, consider checking out my Patreon. I'll see you in the next one.